Hello, I'm Father Damien Howard, the Provincial Superior of the British Jesuits. I'm speaking to you from Campion Hall, the Oxford College of the Jesuits, which has stood on this site since 1936, and which, together with Stonyhurst College, is one of the spiritual and architectural jewels in the crown of the British province. In this film, you will hear more about the historical treasures which both establishments hold. But before that, let me briefly put those treasures into their proper context. The items you're about to see form part of the rich and turbulent history of Catholicism in the British Isles, a history in which the Jesuits have played a full part, sometimes covertly, often persecuted, but always remaining true to the vision of our founder, St. Ignatius of Loyola. We've just finished marking the 500th anniversary of his spiritual awakening, often known as the Saint's Cannonball Moment, and we're about to celebrate the 400th anniversary of the founding of this province, the English and now British province. It gives me great pleasure then to be able to share with you just a sliver of our Jesuit history. My colleagues here at Campion Hall, Father Nick Austin and Professor Peter Davidson, and at Stonyhurst College, Dr. Jan Graffius and Mr. Joseph Reed, will now share with you items which carry both a historical and spiritual significance, and which pay testament to the enduring power of Christianity.
Welcome to Stonyhurst College in Lancashire in the north of England. My name is Jan Graffius and I'm the curator of Stonyhurst College's wonderful museum collections. In the next few minutes, I want to share with you a few of the rare and historic artefacts which I'll be bringing to America. St. Thomas More is well known in the US. He is the patron saint of lawyers and statesmen and was memorably portrayed in the film A Man for All Seasons. This stunning gold and enamelled reliquary belonged to him. On the front, we can see St. George killing the dragon, about to rescue the captive princess. On the back is an image of the resurrected Christ, surrounded by items associated with the crucifixion. Inside is a portrait, which was badly damaged in the 18th century. It shows Thomas More by the famous Tudor artist Hans Holbein. Holbein almost certainly designed the beautiful enamel scenes which adorn this rich and valuable artefact. It once contained a saint's relic, we don't know whose, but the images of St. George, the patron saint of England, and Christ speak of Thomas More's deep faith. It was given to the Jesuit province in 1750 by Father Thomas More, a direct descendant of the saint and martyr. This richly decorated prayer book was owned by two famous queens. It was made in 1558 for Mary Tudor, the daughter of Henry VIII and Catherine of Aragon, as you can see from the silver gilt decoration. The Tudor rose for Mary's father, and a pomegranate, the symbol of Queen Catherine, sit beside the letters spelling out Maria. On the back is the Latin word for queen and Mary Tudor's coat of arms. Despite being designed on Mary's instructions and intended for her personal use, the book was never owned by the Queen. It was still being bound with this lavish red silk velvet when she died, and it passed into the hands of her cousin, Mary Queen of Scots. The Scottish Queen used the book for her daily prayers and devotions, and it was on the scaffold when she was executed on the orders of Elizabeth I, Mary Tudor's half-sister. Rescued by a lady-in-waiting, it was smuggled out of England and bequeathed to the Jesuit province in the early 17th century.
Hello, I'm Father Nick Austin, Master of Campion Hall. The patron of Campion Hall is the Jesuit saint and martyr, Edmund Campion. There are very few surviving items that were owned by Campion. He was a Catholic priest and missionary in Elizabethan England. This was a time when Catholicism was illegal and priests were subject to the death penalty if captured. Campion was in England in 1580 and 81, bringing the sacraments to beleaguered Catholics, moving from house to house in disguise, in constant peril of betrayal and arrest. My colleague, Professor Peter Davidson from Campion Hall, will tell us more about this fascinating object, which belongs to Campion Hall and is under his expert care. This Wax Agnes Day was blessed by Pope Gregory XIII in 1578. St Edmund Campion brought it with him on his mission to England in 1580. On the 17th of July 1581, St Edmund was captured in the course of a raid on Lyford Grange near Oxford. On that day, it was hastily wrapped and hidden in the space under the roof, and it was only rediscovered in 1959. It is remarkable that this fragile object has survived, and as far as I know, this is the only complete Agnus Dei surviving from early modern England.
This small book, held in the Stonyhurst College Historic Libraries, sheds fascinating and amusing light on the childhood of two of America's founding fathers, John and Charles Carroll. They were educated at the English Jesuit College of St Thomas in France, the direct ancestor of today's Stonyhurst. At that time, it wasn't possible for the Carroll boys to receive a Catholic education in their own country, and so they crossed the Atlantic to France. Joe Reed, the Stonyhurst archivist, tells us more.
This book contains the lyric poetry of the 17th century Polish Jesuit Matthias Casimir Sabievius. The book served John and later Charles Carroll as one of their school textbooks, aiding the composition of Latin poetry for public speaking. Effective and persuasive command of language, both written and spoken, was perhaps the most important part of the educational tradition at St Thomas. Our pupils were expected to speak Latin at all times, including for poetry composition and recitation, and for debates in competition with one another. No doubt this preparation would have well served the future founding fathers. More than anything else, this object is a reminder that every famous figure in history was only human. The book has been inscribed by the two boys. They've written their names, and John has added his class position and the date 1751. However, like any teenager, one of the Carrolls has taken to doodling in the book, presumably inspired by the Carroll tobacco plantations back home. One of them has graffitied Maryland tobacco pipes into the mouths of the muses, as well as between the Barberini bees on the Pope's coat of arms.
These extraordinary objects, with some other rare and beautiful historic artefacts, will be in America for a short time to accompany the major exhibition in New York, Cleveland and San Francisco on the art of the Tudor court. I hope that many of you will be able to see the unique historical artefacts which I am bringing and to experience the thrill of being close to the possessions of saints and martyrs, royalty and revolutionaries.